Hello. First of all, thank you for the invitation to the conference. It's a privilege to be a part of such a conference with distinguished guests, professors, authors, and all the others. Today, I will present the article Internal Communication between Employees of Different Generations and Educational Levels in an Organization, written by Matthias Dolschek and, of course, me, Tanya Sedej. Now let's dig into the topic. The success of internal communication is vital to every organization. The literature review raises different questions in regard to internal communication, as only a few articles cope with it profoundly, with a focus on the use of channels in connection to generation and educational level differences. The fact is that organization has been experiencing a growing pressure for effective internal communication in the last decade, and even more intense in the last year due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The central aim of this article was to provide a critical review of the main theories on internal communication with a focus on communication channels. Given the rapid advances and the increased reliance on technology, the article provided fresh empirical data on internal communication in an organization relating to the differences in preferences for communication channels depending on generations and educational levels of employees. In today's contemporary environment, internal communication has been becoming more and more challenging and even more complex to manage. Nevertheless, it is necessary to manage huge amounts of information, link them to the corporate strategies, and introduce organizational changes which are successful only when the messages are properly understood and cause changes in employees' behavior. Internal communication already is, and still in many cases should be, a part of strategic planning in an organization. Nevertheless, strategic planning of internal communication consists also of choosing appropriate communication channels depending on what is the content we want to communicate, what is the key message, and who is the target audience. And despite the growing professional interest and literature on the internal communication field, there are still some narrow fields that need to be explored in more detail. So the paper aims to add to the overall understanding of internal communication and its channels in the contemporary environment where digitalization of communication is in great process. Consequently, organizations need to adjust internal communication in an increasingly competitive, fast-changing, and technology-based environment. Nowadays, we can no longer imagine an organization that does not use electronic media such as internet, video, conferencing, email, and so on when communicating in organizations with employees. Now, the research purpose. The aim of our research was to examine the channels of internal communication. The plan was to investigate in detail which communication channels are preferred by employees at different educational levels and different generations. We applied a quantitative research approach. Data acquisition was performed using a survey technique. The research instrument was a structured questionnaire which took place and was active online in 2021. On the ground of theoretical research, we set the questionnaire. The content of the questionnaire was the subject of discussion with management, tested on small sample of employees, and of course upgraded according to the findings. And the survey was divided in three parts. The first one was the demographical part, the second one cooperation of respondents in their work environment, and the third part, the field of communication and the use of various communication channels. And what did we find out? We noted that the results regarding the average values of communication channels through which respondents receive information are approximately consistent with the average values of communication frequency used across different communication channels. At the top of the communication channel list are emails and meetings. This is in accordance with thoughts of some authors. Our research also showed that higher educated employees are more inclined to communicate via electronic media than lower educated ones. The results are expected and in line with some researchers that found that in Slovenia, higher educated use information and communication technology more than less educated. The results of the research, which were used to determine differences in frequency of receiving information for individual communication channels depending on their affiliation with the older or younger generation, are somewhat unexpected. In accordance with the statements in the professionals' literature, we confirm that generations Y and Z communicate more often via web conferencing, which is classified as more modern communication channel than members of Generation X and Baby Boom. But we did not confirm these differences in determining the frequency of communications via email. Apparently, due to its simplicity and accessibility, the communication channel has also been adopted by the older generation. Nevertheless, in the research, we also did not confirm employees of the baby boom and X generation are more prone to communications at meetings than generation Y and Z. It is the fact that the older generation needed to adapt to the change. On the other hand, the younger generations see the value of interpersonal communication as meetings. Additionally, it must be considered that the research was conducted during the pandemic COVID-19. And we can conclude now, consequently, the central question of the research conducted was as following. Which internal communication channels are the most important and effective in the contemporary environment? Is there a difference in the use of internal communication channels when communicating with different generations and educational levels of employees? As the research shows, some internal communication channels are more preferred by employees of different generations and educational levels. Also, some channels are preferable no matter the age and education. Nevertheless, the research contributes to better understanding of internal communication channels and provides a frame for internal communication channel planning in organizations. Thank you for your attention.